it's very easy to appreciate historically everything that he did, again, because of documentation. If he had not documented his work, then we would not know very much about what he did. So this is what I want to stress, is that even if you're an introverted person, but you work on things, you might want to document very well, and look to Isaac Newton for that, because if he did not, then that would have not gone very well for him and his physics career and his optics career and his math career, right? He's a physicist as well as a mathematician with his work for calculus. And again, he invented calculus because he was motivated to be able to mathematically formalize the physics that he was working on. So again, brilliant, just a brilliant guy. And he was very young, I believe, when he did a lot of this. So very dedicated young man indeed. Raikuta says, very easy to dedicate oneself to discovery when there's barely any distractions. There's always distractions, I would say, at any given time for anybody. He could have been distracted with his doggy. I think his dog was named Diamond. He could have been distracted with socializing. There's always an option to go out and do things other than stay home and, just work on your interests. I'm not saying I totally agree with only staying home and not going outside. I mean, hopefully he took walks. Otherwise, his mental health would have been kind of suffering. But pretty much, but at the same time, I think being a recluse is also good, because back in the day, it kind of saved you from infectious diseases like the plague and whatnot. So I do believe that there was something like that with Newton as well, where he very cleverly avoided being sick because of being such a recluse. So for a recluse, I think amazing work. It really just makes sense. Like, he did a lot of work and he was an introvert, and so then he wrote about it and that was it, and he kept working more and more every day. Amazing, love it. I always liked Aristotle's work. Einstein had a clown persona. Einstein had a good way of communicating effectively. He had, I think, a type of emotional intelligence which led him to be a good orator, a good communicator. I think he had relationships, like he was a more wholesome person in that sense. He had his first wife, his second wife, he had children. I mean, I don't know how exactly he was as a father. He had, colleagues. He was more part of the sort of bigger life than Newton was. Newton, while working by himself, discovers the laws of motion, laws of gravity. He's then asked why planets orbit in ellipses, so he invents calculus to answer that. He then turns 27. Exactly. So Newton is really quite something else. Like, he was extremely prolific, contributing a lot. But then, I mean, Einstein was very prolific too. He gave us those four major things in 1905, and then he did general relativity, and he had already won the Nobel Prize by then. But his dedication, I would say Einstein's dedication to finishing up relativity and coming up with the general theory of relativity after the special theory of relativity was done already, and then dedicating the rest of his life to come up with the grand unification theory, even though that wasn't complete in his lifetime and still is sort of a question mark at this point. That is also a big dedication. And I would say I'm kind of sad that Einstein did not fulfill his grand unification dreams. And those are still really difficult even now. We've been talking a little bit about string theory, and that string theory is sort of a candidate for that. But at the same time, because it has so many dimensions, you can't really test it out and prove it out and experiment. And so that makes it difficult to make it a really, really legitimate thing. But Einstein was working hard and dedicated towards that cause. So I would say, I mean, they were both very dedicated, just very different people. He's honestly the most influential person in scientific history. I think he is the most influential. I think Einstein is the most influential, especially for popularizing the topics. So because Einstein was a good communicator orally, like, he gave good talks, so he became more of the image of a scientist, a mad scientist, that type